There are needs for adjustment in Medicare, but it is a basically sound approach to meeting the health care needs of our nation. Now, retirement security for most of us is also about pooled risk. Now, there are a fortunate few who have sufficient individual financial assets to cover their needs, even if they live to 110 years and spend the last 20 years of life in intensive care. Now, you can figure out how many $1 million you might need for that, but if you have enough millions of dollars, then you could feel pretty secure with an individual retirement account. But for most of us, an investment account, quite apart from the inherent uncertainty of Wall Street financial markets, is an adequate solution only if we die shortly after retirement with no serious health problems. The only way to guarantee retirement security for a nation is through a social contract under which those of working age support those of retirement age in return for the expectation that subsequent generations will do the same for them. Social Security is just such a contract, and it is there for all of us. With a private retirement account, you're on your own. And God forbid that you live longer than your financial assets. Now, the evident failure of government, particularly the federal government, to address the economic, social, and environmental failures of the Wall Street economy traces directly to Wall Street players who have used their financial power to reduce democracy to a weak, shallow, and corrupt charade, and thereby strip the government of the capacity to provide effective leadership in the broad public interest. The Wall Street economy is incapable of transforming itself, and it will collapse. It would already have collapsed if not for trillions of dollars of taxpayer subsidy through the Federal Reserve and the U.S. Treasury. We must liberate America from Wall Street's grip, or we will collapse with it. As our forebears liberated America from rule by a distant king and the British East India Company, we must now liberate ourselves from Wall Street rule. Unfortunately, people all across America are awakening to the fact that there are alternatives to the disastrous status quo, and they are mobilizing to build a new American economy that will allow all Americans to achieve the American dream. It hasn't been announced yet by Fox News. But you can find out about it from the independent media, like Yes Magazine. And I see there's a clipboard circulating around where you can sign up for our newsletter and you can subscribe in the lobby afterwards. America is awakening to our potential as a nation to unite around the transformation of our economic lives and institutions, and to bring forth a new human future of environmental health, peace, and justice for all. It's about values, vision, real democracy, real markets, people power, and the restoration of local control and civic life. Now, the political extremists, who intentionally or not align behind policies that strengthen Wall Street rule, are intent on promoting candidates for the 2012 Republican ticket who are so far outside the political mainstream and so dedicated to advancing policies so contrary to the interests of most Americans that they are setting themselves up for a resounding 2012 defeat, even against Democrats campaigning on the slogan, "But we're not Republicans." A serious get-out-the-vote campaign combined with voter education on the real Republican agenda should assure a Democratic sweep next year. That might get government functioning again, but it will not shift the power from Wall Street to Main Street, because Democrats are as dependent on Wall Street campaign money as the Republicans. They just make it a little bit less obvious. Advancing the structural changes needed to shift power from Wall Street to Main Street is a much bigger challenge. Now, I want to note here that the Tea Party currently dominates the national political debate, not because it elected Republicans to a majority in the House of Representatives in the 2010 election, but because it gained control of the Republican Party's policy agenda. Reshaping the policy agenda of the Democratic Party is a far more ambitious task than simply getting Democrats elected against an extremist opposition consumed by illusions of self-righteous invincibility. The Tea Party's rise to power was greatly facilitated by their mobilization behind a framing story that Wall Street interests have been promoting for decades through corporate-dominated media and education to define the economic policy debate. Whoever controls the framing story of the debate determines the economic policy agenda. Here is the essence of the Wall Street story that is now familiar to all of us and to all Americans. Economic growth is the path to prosperity. To increase growth, reduce taxes and regulations, particularly for the job creators, the wealthy people who have the money to invest in job-creating businesses. Taxes and regulation kill the ability and incentive for the rich to make the investments that grow the economy to create jobs. You heard this story? Government's a consumer, not a producer. Because of market discipline, for-profit enterprises are always more efficient than government. So get government out of the way by reducing taxes and regulation and privatizing government assets and services so the market can work its magic to the benefit of all of us. Yay! Now, the Tea Party did not invent this message. It simply embraced it and thereby tapped into well-founded public fear and anger, and then focused that fear and anger on government as the problem. Now, there's some truth to it. As we've noticed, government is part of the problem, but it may not be the source of it. But whether or not the intention of most Tea Party members, many of whom, in fact, are as distrustful as Wall Street as we are, which is a very important thing to keep in mind as you're talking to your conservative neighbors here. Whether intended or not, their embrace of this story served to deflect public blame for our national crisis away from Wall Street, deepen established political divisions, and create a political deadlock that largely precludes effective government action to contain Wall Street's abuses of its economic and political power. So again, the framing story is the key to political success. We need to back our agenda with a counter story to the Wall Street story. We progressives are really good at generating endless lists of positive policy proposals, but we are generally very poor at framing and popularizing the larger framing story that would give our proposals a deeper sense of meaning and purpose. This is a key piece of our work, is to find that framing message and get on board with it. Now take our contract for the American dream. And if any of you haven't seen it, if you open your program up to the centerfold, you'll find the 10 elements of the contract there. It's a brilliant synthesis of the thousands of policy proposals submitted from conversations involving 131,203 Americans into a list of 10 important and widely popular policy proposals, each of which individually can be easily attacked within the established right-wing story frame as an unwarranted socialist government intrusion into our personal lives and a threat to private enterprise and the free market. We need to back our agenda with a powerful counter story that puts the focus on Wall Street rule as the problem and frames an agenda to shift power from Wall Street to Main Street. a story something along these lines. In response to the Great Depression of the 1930s, America put in place a highly progressive tax system and strong regulation of Wall Street banks and corporations. The resulting American economy created the American middle class, made America the world leader in industry and technology, and made the American dream a reality for a substantial majority of Americans. Then in the 1970s, Wall Street began mobilizing to launch an assault on regulation, unions, social safety nets, and taxes on the rich. It used its growing economic and political power to push down wages and benefits, eliminate and outsource jobs, and redirect financial markets from long-term investment in real wealth creation to inflating and speculating on financial bubbles for short-term gain. Contrary to Wall Street propaganda, Wall Street is a job killer, not a job creator. And remember this one. Increasing Wall Street taxes and regulation will actually increase jobs by shifting power from Wall Street job killers to Main Street job creators. To build a prosperous 21st century America, we must declare our national independence from Wall Street, reclaim the power Wall Street has usurped, and rebuild a national system of Main Street economies owned and accountable to people who have a natural interest in building healthy communities with healthy natural environments that provide everyone access to a dignified family wage job with benefits. This story is elaborated in detail in my books, which are, again, on there for sale tonight. The power shift from Wall Street to Main Street is, in fact, the implicit but unspoken frame of the contract for the American dream. Making the underlying story explicit would make it clear that what it presents is far more than simply a list of traditional progressive policy ideas. Now, I want to go through each of the 10 points with this power shift in mind. I'm not going to go through in order, but you might want to be looking at your centerfold in your program. Let's start with contract point 10, strengthening democracy. This is about eliminating Wall Street's power to buy elections. Great starting point for limiting Wall Street power. Point 7, fair tax rates. Point 9, a Wall Street speculation tax. And point 5, making work pay. All three of these move to shift the power imbalance from Wall Street to Main Street, all by contributing to a more equal distribution of wealth. Now then, fair tax rates and the speculation tax also combine with point 8, ending America's wars of occupation, all to increase the funding available to invest in family wage, private and public sector jobs with benefits that meet essential needs in infrastructure, point 1, energy, point 2, and education, point 3. People with good jobs are less susceptible to manipulation by political demagogues. Again, a blow to Wall Street power. Then point 4, Medicare for all, and point 6, secure Social Security. These empower people and community by liberating us from dependence on Wall Street insurance and investment management corporations that care only for their own profits, not for our health and retirement security. So building a unifying story frame around a Wall Street to Main Street power shift provides a basis for building an expanding Puget Sound political alliance among a great many groups advancing campaigns essential to building a new economy supportive of the American dream. These are just a few. the Washington Public Bank Coalition, the Local Investment Opportunity Network, Sustainable Communities all over Puget Sound, the Backbone Campaign, Washington Community Action Network, Occupy Wall Street, U.S. Uncut, the other 98%, SEIU Fight for a Fair Economy Campaign, Mad as Hell Doctors, Strengthening Local Independent Cooperatives everywhere, Yes Magazine and the Business Alliance for Local Living Economies, among others, and you could name many more. These are all groups that potentially can come together in the Puget Sound area around this power shift agenda. Too often as progressive groups, we dilute our energies by working in silos. We build effective political power, however, only through larger alliances built around unifying stories. Replacing the Wall Street economy with a global system of human scale, interconnected Main Street economies that function in harmony with local ecosystems, meet the basic needs of all people, support just and democratic societies, and foster joyful community life is an epic, even audacious undertaking. But the future of humanity lies in the balance. I find hope in the fact that we stand beside millions of people the world over who are rising to this great challenge. Now is the hour. We have the power. We are the ones we've been waiting for. Thank you.